What if I told you that the single most important financial lesson, the one that could make you a millionaire, maybe a billionaire, has nothing to do with investing, tax strategies, or even how much you earn? Welcome to the Lawyer Millionaire, the podcast that helps law firm owners build wealth, grow their firms, and achieve financial independence. I'm your host, Darren Wurz, financial planner for law firm owners. Today, we're diving into one simple but powerful rule: spend less than you make. I'll share why even high-income attorneys struggle with this, how lifestyle creep can silently sabotage your future, and practical ways to build wealth without feeling deprived. Let's get into it. Law firm owners, are you ready to sharpen your financial mindset and take your practice to the next level? Join the Lawyer Millionaire Book Club, open only to lawyers, where we dive into powerful books that transform the way you think about money, business, and success. It's not just about books, though. It's about connecting with a community of like-minded attorneys. Sign up now using the link in the show notes. All right, guys, let's get into our topic today. Spend less than you make. How you doing in that arena, by the way? You know, some of my wealthiest clients don't drive the nicest cars or live in the biggest houses. It's so fascinating to me because I get an inside look at the lifestyle, the actual finances of individuals. And I can tell you this is true. There are plenty of lawyers with luxury lifestyles who actually have less money in the bank. The real difference, it's not about what you make, it's about what you keep. This principle is deceptively simple, but incredibly hard to follow. And today, I'm going to explain to you why. You know, I've told this story before. I'll tell it again. You know, a couple of clients of mine, they were older, retired folks. And during their working years, they both had jobs, but they only needed one spouse's income. The other spouse's income, they saved the entire income. They never lived in a big house. They had a very small house. They drove, mid-range cars, Toyota, standard vehicles. And they retired multi-millionaires, amazingly wealthy, just because they were able to save a ton of money their entire life. Now, what am I saying? Should we all do that? Not necessarily, but let's talk about it. Let's talk about this because so many people struggle with this. In fact, this is one of the number one reasons that people come to me. They're making tons of money, high 6 to 7 figures, and struggling to save money. Why is that? Why is that? It's such a difficult thing. Well, let's talk about one area, the trap of lifestyle creep. You know, as we get older, as our incomes grow, we tend to expand our lifestyle. When we get a raise or a big settlement fee, we naturally spend more. And, sometimes rightly so, right? You've been living off of ramen right out of college, and then you get your first big bonus and you start getting raises. And you know what? You're like, hey, I deserve something nicer, right? The thing is, we tend to fill the space. As human beings, we fill the space into which we go. You ever notice that? That's why they say, don't buy a big house because you'll end up buying a bunch of crap to fill it with. Buy a small house, and then, you won't be tempted to buy as much stuff because you won't have the space to put it. In fact, you'll want less stuff. The same thing happens with money, right? We fill the space that money creates. You get a big credit card with a big credit limit. What happens? You go out and you fill it up. Well, a lot of people do. Maybe you don't. Hopefully you don't. But if you do, you're in the right place because we're going to talk about this today. Society is part of the problem too. We feel like we deserve a bigger house, a luxury car, lavish vacations, not because we did anything special, but because we're middle-class professionals living in America. I should be able to go to the Bahamas on vacation, or, not saying that, it's a lot of ways to go to the Bahamas, but, I deserve to drive this certain type of car just because I am living in the country that I am, right? And because my neighbor drives that car, right? It's the comparing ourselves with the Joneses all the time. And that happens a lot in professional services, in the legal world, in the business world. You have well-to-do clients, you have well-to-do colleagues. There's often a lot of pressure to look successful for those colleagues and those clients. And I get it. I totally get it. One of the things, when I started my business, my dad gave me a Rolex because he said I needed to look the part. And I understand it. And I did. I had to look the part. I bought some very nice tailored suits. Ask me the last time I wore a tailored suit. I mean, this is post-COVID, right? I'm jeans and a blazer all day long, right? Old Navy jeans at that, right? But there is a need to look a certain part. Have you ever experienced that? But here's the dirty little secret. The dirty little secret is many people appear wealthy, but are actually drowning in expenses. That's the dirty little secret. You see the nice car they drive, you see the nice house they live in, but what you don't see is the mortgage, the loan, the car payment that they also have to make. You don't see that. And this is just part of our human nature, right? Money is this made up thing, right? And so it's not easy to see. Everyone should keep all their money in a giant glass house, and then you could see how much money everybody has, right? No, but we don't see. And this is one of the lessons we learned in the psychology of money, is that wealth is what you don't see. I'll say that again. Wealth is what you don't see. A big house, a big car, that's not wealth. 90% of the time you see someone driving a really nice car, living in a really nice house, they bought it on credit. All that means they've got a great credit score, or they have a sufficient credit score to be able to borrow enough money to buy whatever that is. Instead of spending more as you earn, try to increase your savings rate instead, right? We're always tempted to continually expand our lifestyle. Find out where your enough is. Find out where you're comfortable, right here. At this level, this is good. I'm happy. I'm comfortable. And no, a bigger house won't make you happier. Why do people downsize in retirement? They get freaking sick of a big house. I got to clean all this crap. I got to mow this big yard, or I got to pay somebody to mow this big yard. You don't need all that. Downsize. Less is more so often in life. And there's so many studies that support this, especially with kids and the amount of toys that kids have. Less toys makes kids happier. I started seeing a lot of those studies that have come out, right? It's amazing. The clutter, the stuff, the crap that we have is making us anxious, stressed out. It's not making us happy. I want you to think back to when you graduated law school and you when you were in law school and you were eating ramen, right? Or whatever. Hopefully you weren't eating ramen. I don't think I ate ramen in college. But anyway, maybe a few times. Okay. Yeah, you didn't have 2 nickels to rub together. But I bet you were happy. And maybe you weren't. I shouldn't generalize. But people look back on those were the good old days, right? The glory days, the living in not having much, but having some friends and you can create happiness in any situation, any circumstance that you're in. It's not about the stuff. And so often we think it's about the stuff, and the stuff is actually making us less happy. I hear this so often. I just want to dispel this myth. I hear so often people say, you know what? I just want to have enough money that I can go into a store and I can buy whatever I want. And I don't even have to think about money. I can just spend, I can buy, and I can do whatever I want. And I just don't even have to think about it. Get that out of your head. You will never, ever, ever, ever be able to just spend whatever you want and not even think about it. Billionaires can't do that. Hello? This is why NFL players go broke. Let me say that again. This is why multi-millionaires lose everything because they think they can just spend whatever they want. No one can just spend whatever they want, and you will never be able to do that either. Okay? The sooner you realize that, the happier you'll be. It's not about the spending. Okay, I'm going to calm down now. There are some things in the world that make this more difficult. We live in a corporate capitalist society, and corporate America wants you to upgrade your lifestyle. Credit cards were not around forever. I forget when credit cards were invented, but when credit cards were invented, watch out. Of course, the American economy boomed after that because people could spend. They could spend money they didn't have. And what's really crazy about it? There's a whole generation of people that started with credit cards, but their parents did not have credit cards. And so we as a human species have had to learn how to figure this out and how to deal with credit cards. We had no one to really teach us and train us how to. Credit cards are relatively new, a new invention in the span of human history. And then there's social media, which fuels comparison. You see these people and, they're doing their social media and they're in these big houses and nice cars, and 9 out of 10 times they are rented. They're not owned. But even the government pushes us to spend more because consumer spending drives the economy. What did George Bush say after 9/11? Go spend money. Go buy stuff. Go buy stuff, right? Keep the economy going. And of course, there's our own human nature. Human nature makes us crave instant gratification over long-term security. It's just part of the way that we're wired. And we live in a world of instant gratification. We live in the Amazon TikTok world where you can just tap on your phone and it shows up tomorrow. Or sometimes it shows up tonight. I can get same-day delivery. And just wait until Amazon gets drones flying in the air. The solution is being intentional. The solution is automation, making it so that you can't mess it up, right? Automation, doing things that are going to force you to make the right choices. Not deprivation, but strategic spending. If you're struggling with this, by the way, we can help. This is one of the top things we do, cash flow planning. It's a problem I love to help law firm owners think through and solve, automating their cash flow, regulating their cash flow, making irregular cash flow regular. And we can help with that. The link to schedule an intro call with me is in the show notes. You're welcome to go down and click that link, jump on my calendar. And by the way, listeners of this show get $250 off your first month as a client. Just mention this episode. All right. So how do you build wealth without feeling deprived? Number one, automate your savings first. Treat your savings like a non-negotiable expense. Increase your savings before you expand your lifestyle, or anytime you get a raise, automatically increase the savings. This is actually, automating savings is one of the biggest impact things we've done for our clients. And I'm not talking about just setting up an automatic draw into an account, although that's part of it. Setting up flows into various accounts, right? So that you are putting things into buckets. Now, let me tell you something really powerful. You don't have to go build an 8-figure law firm to become a multimillionaire. I'm going to say that again. You do not need to go build an 8-figure law firm to become a multimillionaire. I know. Everywhere we go on LinkedIn, Instagram, everyone's talking about grow. Get your firm to 7 figures. Get your firm to 8 figures. What's going to be next? 9 figures? Well, great. That's great for some people. And if that's what you're passionate about, fantastic. But I just want to tell you, you don't have to do that to become a multimillionaire. It's one way. It's one way you could do it, but it's not guaranteed. I mean, I know owners of multi-million-dollar law firms that are struggling financially, personally, because the secret to wealth is in your spending. That's the secret. It's in your own personal financial habits. I have known owners of 8-figure law firms that have gone bankrupt. I'm just telling you this. I'm just being real. It's not about necessarily growing your law firm as exponentially big as you can make it. Although that can help. Growing your law firm certainly helps, and that's certainly a noble pursuit. But that is not the one and only secret to wealth. In fact, I think it's pretty rare. I think the more common method and approach is mastering your personal financial habits. And you can do both. You can master your personal financial habits and go build the giant law firm. Great. But you're never, ever going to become a multimillionaire if you don't master your spending and savings, period. Not going to happen. And I can say that definitively. The reason I can say that definitively is the encyclopedia of stories of multimillionaires who've gone broke. I'm just telling you, okay? So automate your savings first, and then follow some sort of percentage rule to put your money into different buckets. For example, maybe 50% in a needs bucket for your very basic needs, 30% in a wants bucket for spend whatever you want on it, 20% into savings and investing. But make sure you're prioritizing that savings and investing first. Number 3, set a lifestyle cap for yourself. Just because you can afford something doesn't mean you should afford it, right? You don't need to drive the nicest car. You don't need to have the biggest house. And by the way, those are the things. I mean, yes, the small things add up, but the big things really, really matter. Keep your major expenses below what you qualify for, and you'll be just so much happier. Number 4, use your windfalls wisely. Bonuses and settlements, take half and put it in your savings. Do You'll be so much happier. I'll tell you a quick story. A couple of my clients, during COVID, they sold their house. They bought a new house. Their old house had a bunch of equity in it. But instead of just rolling that equity into the new house, they took that equity out. They bought the new house with a mortgage, started over, new mortgage, new house. When they sold the old house, which had equity, they took the equity and they put it in their investments. And today they're millionaires. It was a couple $100,000. Today they are millionaires. Yeah. So that's the power, right? When you get those lumps of money, don't just go blow it. Take a big portion, take at least half, put it in your investments. You will thank me later. And finally, most importantly, define your enough. What does financial security really look like for you? Once you hit your target, shift your focus from spending to freedom, from growing to preservation. That's where a lot of people go wrong. They hit their target, they get the money, they think they're invincible, they blow it. Okay? Don't let that be you. Next steps for you. Go automate your savings today. Put it on autopilot. Pretend it's a bill. It's my electric bill. I got to pay it. True wealth isn't about looking rich. You ever notice that? I walked into a networking event in Santa Monica, California, and there were like 2 rooms. I was in the first room. It was a bunch of lawyers and other people. And then I walked into the back room, and somebody stopped me, and they were like, "Oh, I don't know if you can be in here. These are the billionaires. This is where the real money is." And yeah, there were some people in there, some multi business owners, people who had created and sold businesses multiple times, multi exits, who were very wealthy. You know what I noticed? They were all in jeans and t-shirts. No, that's not always the case. Let's be real, right? But don't be deceived by what you see. Wealth is what you don't see. By controlling your spending, you control your future. Start today. Set a goal to save a higher percentage of your income than last year. And by the way, this is what we do here at the Lawyer Millionaire. We're here to be your advocate, to walk with you, to help you be successful, not only in growing the wealth, that's one thing, but then in staying wealthy. We can help you with that. And if you enjoyed today's episode and you got something out of it, please connect with me on LinkedIn and tag me with your biggest takeaway. That would really be something. Well, anyway, that's a wrap for this episode of the Lawyer Millionaire Podcast. Thanks for joining me. I'm your host, Darren Wurz. See you next time.